Welcome, Forge friends. It's Ashley Clark with Earthkeeper Yoga, and here is yet another edition of Forge on Demand. So, this is actually one of my favorite ones to share with you because it's quick, it's easy, and it's pretty cheap. So, I'm going to introduce you to the idea of rolling out soft tissue. I know a lot of times with treatments, chemotherapy, surgeries, everything else, we get a lot of tenderness and scar tissue right around the breast area. So we're going to avoid doing anything there because I am not a medical professional and I don't want to do anything to cause you any harm. My intention is to benefit you and to get you more in touch with your physical body. So I have one of my stepson's lacrosse balls, and you could use a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. I will tell you, one time I taught this in person for Forge, and everybody was online, and like 3 or 4 people had tennis balls, but they also had dogs. And then we would put the ball down and then it would just disappear. So if you have a pet at home that might like a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball, make sure that you put it somewhere where it's safe. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few things that you can do to release the tissue. So when you're feeling tight, if you've been sitting all day at work or you're feeling just sort of tension, whatever it is, I want to show you a few different ways you can use this lacrosse ball or a tennis ball to serve you. So the first, I'm going to move my blanket. I'm going to take this tennis ball, I'm going to put it right at the base of my booty. And then I'm going to bend my knees so I can bring weight to the soles of my feet and onto my palms. And then I'm just going to roll gently. And anytime I find a spot where it feels super duper tender, where there's a really big, strong sensation, instead of avoiding it, I'm going to just hold right there, put some weight on that spot, and take a couple of breaths. So this pressure will help release anything that's being held in the bum and in the glutes. And then you can start to move again. And when you find another one, just hold it. So you could do that on both sides. And then there's other things that you can do as well. So if you've been feeling some tension through the hamstrings, you'd have to extend the leg with the ball underneath it long, but the other leg could be bent. And then you can just move back and forward on the ball. And then when you find a spot, just release down, really let that ball just kind of push into the tissue and release it. Beautiful. All right, so now I'm going to show you some of my favorites. This one's really easy to do if you are having some tenderness right up here, avoiding the breast area, but if you feel like you have some tenderness or some tightness right there, right below the collarbones, we avoid any of the bone mass with the lacrosse ball or tennis ball, but you can get right at that little tender spot that's right below the collarbone, and it can really help to roll out some tension. So you got to be gentle with yourself here, especially if this is a tender area that you're a little bit hesitant to even trust. But it is available to you, and you can roll it all the way across the chest. Find that little spot right at the base of the collarbone and roll out any tension that's there. You can also roll down onto your back, no pun intended, and take the lacrosse ball and find that space right at the base of the neck. And this you wouldn't roll so much as just release where you can and let the ball just kind of press into those tender spots right at just the low, if the bone was like a mountain shape, right at the base of the mountain. And just let that release any tension. And then you can move it a little bit more, find another spot. And the trick is to let the body soften around where the ball is pushing in. Other than that, I would tell you to be very careful rolling anywhere on the back just because there's so much. There's the rib cage bones, there's the spinal column, so you have to be really careful anytime you get to the back. But you could, that first one that I showed you was to do the glutes. You could be in this shape, in this bridge type posture, and roll right below the base of that. We're right across from the sacrum on the outside, getting all the way over to the hip bone by just shimmying the hips side to side. All right, so I hope these little tips and tricks will help you when you're feeling stressed and tense and when muscles just feel tight. Go ahead and get yourself a cheap tennis ball or a lacrosse ball and see if you can just roll some of that away. Until we meet again, gratitude for spending a moment with me. Namaste.